you'll join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, let the record show that all board members are here except for Dr. McNeil. I will accept a motion for adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Ms. Romerman?
Yes.
Mr. Kinnear?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes as well. Consent agenda. All of the following items, those items of a routine nature normally approved at board meetings, will be approved by one vote unless any board member desires to have a separate vote on any or all of these items. The consent agenda consists of the discussion, consideration, and action on the following items. Items A through triple T.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All right. Mr. Kinnear?
Yes.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Ms. Romerman?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes as well. All right, under information reports, USPA report, Mr. Morgan? Not here. UCTA report, Ms. Gunter?
President McAdams, Dr. Hartzler, members of the board. First of all, I want to say that UCTA appreciates the opportunity to be the bargaining unit for our certified staff. We put a lot of time and thought into what we brought to the table this year, and we feel like negotiations went really well this year. We had a 97% approval from our certified staff regarding the changes to our contract or potential changes. I would also like to say thank you to the board for considering the retention stipend. It means a lot to those of us who choose to stay at Union, and we feel appreciated.
Thank you. Anything under communications? Anyone signed up to speak? Okay. Under instruction, consider and take action on an employee child care program for the 2023-2024 school year at Rosa Parks Early Childhood Center. Ms. Kiger.
Hi, President McAdams, Dr. Hartzler, and members of the board. We are excited to bring a program for our employee child care. It will be housed at Rosa Parks Early Childhood Center. It will be a 5-star daycare as well as NACE accredited. It has been great to work with Lori Field, Alicia Pennington, and Dr. Williams in helping put this collaborative effort together to be able to offer something for our employees.
I'm super excited about this. We've been trying to do this, I think, as long as I've been on the board, if not longer. So I'm really excited that we're finally able to put something together, and I appreciate your work and the team that's gone into it to finally make it happen.
Thank you.
Yeah. Likewise, I applaud the initiative and for starting out at a reasonable pace on this. I think we all want to see it have a high measure of success, and,
Yes.
and I think starting out this way is one way to help ensure that.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right, Ms. Romerman?
Yes.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Kinnear?
Yes.
The chair votes yes as well. Thank you.
Can I make one little comment about
Yeah.
that, if I may interrupt? I'm sorry. I just want to say thank you to Teresa Kiger, Lori Field, Sandy Calvin, the whole TNL team. They have been phenomenal in making this happen. And Mrs. McAdams, you are correct. We've been trying to do this for a long time, and it's nice to be able to finally put a little check mark by one of those programs that we know will certainly, I think, pay tremendous dividends for our employees and those students too. So, thank you.
All right. Consider and take action on school-based services agreements with the Oklahoma Department of Human Services for 3 school-based social workers in the amount of $115,000 from general funds. Mr. Pennington.
Thank you, President McAdams, Dr. Hartzler, members of the board. Thank you for considering this item. I just want you to know that our school-based specialists have become really a vital and essential part of the work that we do here. This year alone, we service 368 families through our specialists, and over the 2-year contract that we've had, over 630. So they're doing great work. If I could just tell a quick story, we had a student who moved into our district. She was removed from her home from another state, had not seen a dentist or a doctor in a very, very long time, lots of neglect and abuse and lack of care. The mom and the school reached out to our school-based specialist. Within days, the school-based specialist applied for sooner care, but the parent was $25 over the limit. And so the school-based specialist was just persistent, found medical care for the daughter, dentist care. She also had lots of academic needs, which we partner with Building All Children through Asbury. And so just some great stories like that. And when you hear 630 or 368 for this year, these aren't just one call and we're done type of referrals. So just thank you for considering this. It takes a huge load off of our counselors, off of our administrators, so that our district and our families can support families.
Move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Ms. Romerman? Yes. Mr. Kinnear?
Yes.
Chair votes yes as well. Thank you.
you.
All right, consider and take action on a 1-year renewal of the Imagine Learning software subscriptions for EL students at all elementary sites and the 6th, 7th grade center in the amount of $226,947.50 from federal ESSER funds. Ms. Smith?
Good evening, President McAdams, Dr. Hartzler, President, members of the board. I'm recommending that the Board of Education approve the 1-year renewal of Imagine Learning software subscriptions for all elementary schools and the 6th and 7th grade center in the amount of $226,947.50. Imagine Learning software, language and literacy has been used by our EL students in kindergarten through 5th grade at all elementary sites since the spring of 2012. It's proven to be a valuable supplemental language development resource for our program. This purchase will provide additional licenses for our elementary sites, moving from 4 site-wide licenses to 8 this year. It becomes more cost-efficient at a certain point, so there'll be several sites that'll be happy for that because it'll be easier process. They can also use the same software for struggling readers because it's language and literacy, so that will be helpful. I know Jarman, for example, wanted to make extra purchases this year for struggling readers that were not EL.
Second.
Mr. Kinnear?
Yes.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Ms. Romerman?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes as well. Thank you. Consider and take action on the expenditure of up to $195,518.28 from general funds to purchase textbooks and software for the 2023-2024 school year. Ms. Calvin?
Good evening, President McAdams, Dr. Hartzler, board members. This is a big teaching and learning evening. It seems like we have a lot on the agenda. I am requesting that you consider the approval for purchase of $195,518.28 to purchase textbooks. This is carryover from our 22-23 textbook allocation. We have already spent the remainder of that budget on textbooks this last year. This will just allow us in this next fiscal year to continue using these monies. Everything will arrive on time from our previous purchases. I know, Ms. Romerman, you had asked that question prior. And this will just, some of those fill-in items that we need, this will allow us to purchase those items.
Are we still doing like class sets of a physical book, or are we doing more online books with the one-to-one?
We are doing both. We are doing both. Our students need both, and teachers have different preferences. Sometimes it is, not just sometimes, a lot of times, especially with our primary students actually having the physical book in hand, and even some of our secondary teachers have that preference too.
Okay. Just curious.
Sure.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right. Ms. Romerman?
Yes.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Kinnear?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes as well.
Thank you. I will be, as soon as we receive our new state allocation, I'll bring that to the board after we receive that in July.
Okay. Consider and take action on the expenditure of up to $900,000 from bond funds to purchase textbooks and software for the 2023-2024 school year. Ms. Cow.
Yes, this, our state allocation does not fulfill the financial need that we have in the purchase of textbooks and software for our students. So thankfully for our bond issue and our bond funds, this does fill in a large hole. So I am requesting out of our newest bond fund, $900,000 to purchase textbooks and software.
Second.
Mr. Kinnear?
Yes.
Ms. Rummerman? Yes. Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes as well.
Thank you.
All right. Consider and take action to approve the capacity levels and the calculated open transfer capacity amounts as recommended. Dr. Nelson.
Yes, President McAdams, Dr. Hartzler, and Board. I recommend the Board of Education approve the capacity levels and the calculated open transfer capacity amounts by school and grade level for posting on the district website by July 1st. Just a couple things to note about these capacity levels. We had 128 transfer applications that would be approved this spring that were on a waiting list. All of those are rolled forward as enrollments going into next year. So the capacity levels that you're approving are being, you can see on the chart that I provided, in some cases we reduced the number. That had to do with in the cases where those spring enrollments would reduce the capacity levels that we had. In other cases, we were already above capacity. We still brought the students in. So these will apply from July 1st moving forward. The state application portal is closed right now. It opens again on July 1st. So this will be rolling forward, and then as we did last year, we plan to reevaluate our numbers in August, and then quickly, probably we'll come right back to you as soon as we can with some fresh capacity levels in order to admit some students in where we have space in the fall that we can observe. So.
Thank you for that explanation. So we've already taken in 128 that are reflected in the current report. Is that a way to understand that?
Right, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So what happens between July 1st and the start of school?
We'll process any transfer applications. In fact, we have some that have just more recently arrived since this group has come through. We'll process them, evaluate them, and then we'll know, have them approved or denied, and then ready to be applied where we have capacity openings in the fall, based on class sizes.
So, and some of this is me, I get a little confused on what the report does. I understand there's a state compliant report, right?
Yes.
So this is, we are doing this as a matter of compliance of state law. So we have to do it, and here's a form. Nevertheless, there's how we ultimately manage that could be different. And where I'm going with that is it seems that our capacity is much greater than what the state compliant rules tell us it needs to be. Now, that's dependent upon having enough teachers, but it would still be interesting, and I'm not saying it has to be a part of the compliance report. The state dictates what the compliance is, and we've got a form for that. It would still be, I think, helpful to understand what our additional student capacity might be if we had the teachers available. Does that make sense?
It does. And so I think in part we accommodate that by taking every spring transfer application for next year that is approved. They're only denied based on behavior or attendance records that are provided. So we're, in a sense, the doors were open in the spring for next year.
Right.
And then during the school year, it gets more complicated because the staffing's established, it's hard to find teachers. But this was the open door, and of the transfer applications, we basically taking every one that we can.
What kind of level of volume would we expect to happen between, basically, during the closed period? And I'm just dozens, hundreds?
Right, yeah, maybe a couple hundred applications, and then of those, between 100, 150 may be approved, and then we would be looking for placements. That's rough based on last year. This is the first full year now we've been at this and a half, first full year and a half. So it'll only be the second time going into the fall. We're really trying to take care of as many transfers as we can so that we can prepare for them. And then, once we get into the fall, we'll still try to squeeze as many in that while we're still honoring our patrons and the students of our families who live in the district, so at the same time, yeah.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
One more question for my colleagues. Do we get to discuss this? Is this presented in any of the subcommittee meetings? And
When it first
Just when it first came out,
when we were
yeah.
working out the format, maybe it was, but
Yeah.
is it a regular part of?
We certainly can make that every time we get to this point in the school year. I think that would be a very good recommendation for us to do. Primarily, that would occur in the curriculum subcommittee
Yeah,
meeting.
right.
But you're going to get the report on that discussion.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. That addresses my questions.
Anything else?
I move for approval.
All right. Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Kinnear?
Yes.
Ms. Romerman? Yes. And the chair votes yes as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Under Personnel, consider and take action on the addendum to extend agreement to the substitute staff placement agreement originally approved at the May 9th, 2022 board meeting with ESS South Central LLC in the amount of $1,500,000 from general funds, and authorize the Executive Director of Human Resources to execute the agreement and authorize payments pursuant to the agreement. Mr. Logring.
President McAdams, Dr. Hartzler, members of the board, I'd like to recommend that we continue our agreement for the next year with ESS Substitute Services. We did a follow-up here at the end of the year. We averaged almost 89% class coverage, which I know alleviated a lot of the issues at the sites of not having to cover as many classes. It was a good 10 to 15% higher than we had prior to when we had them fully running it. A number of districts nearby have heard about our success and are looking to go that way as well, but fortunately, we are the first of fully doing it and showing them how to make it happen. So they've been a great service to us, and the cost hasn't been extensively more than we would have been spending on substitutes previously, so we're very happy with that.
Yeah. Remind me how the cost works. Is it a flat amount, or is it an amount based upon anticipated usage with a final adjustment to occur?
It's a flat amount per usage,
Okay.
per substitute that comes in.
Okay.
So we're basically encumbering this amount for the school year.
For the entire school year, that's correct. Yeah, we spent about 1.4 million last year.
It's a lot of substitutes.
It's a lot of substitutes. But with 1,000 teachers,
Yeah.
and everything that goes on, and then when you have people missing for athletic events and arts events and different things too, those all need coverage. It takes a lot to keep everything going that we do at Union, which keeps our students engaged.
Yeah.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right. Ms. Romerman? Yes. Mr. Kinnear?
Yes.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes as well. All right. Consider and take action to name the Associate Director of Child Nutrition.
Thank you very much. I would like to introduce Miss Jamie Gardner. Jamie, if you would stand. It is our recommendation that Miss Jamie Gardner be named the Associate Director of Child Nutrition. Miss Gardner joins us. She has a bachelor's degree of science in nutritional sciences from OSU. She was most recently Vice President of Operations for a food service organization in Stillwater, and she's also a registered dietitian. And I know they're very excited to have her come on board. With your approval, she will be joining us as the Associate Director of Child Nutrition.
Second.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Overman? Yes. Mr. Kinnear?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes as well. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, consider and take action to name the Associate Director of Transportation.
Mr. Eric Harlow. Eric, if you would stand up there in the back. Mr. Harlow is being recommended to be the Associate Director of Transportation. He comes to us with a bachelor's degree from OSU as well. Dr. Hartzler, you can do the counts. Most recently, he was the Fire Chief and Administrative Services Director for the City of Guthrie, and was fulfilling his obligations there, and we are very excited to recommend him as the Associate Director of Transportation to join us here at Union.
Move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Kinnear?
Yes.
Mr. Overman? Yes. Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes as well. Welcome. All right, consider and take action to name the principal of the 7th grade.
Thank you very much. It is my honor to recommend Miss Crystal Pounds. Crystal has a bachelor's degree in education from Northeastern State University, a master's degree from the University of Texas at Arlington. She was previously a principal when she worked in Texas, and she joined us in 2021 as an assistant principal. It is my honor to recommend Miss Crystal Pounds as the new principal for the 7th grade center.
Second.
Mr. Overman? Yes. Mr. Kinnear?
Yes.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes as well. Congratulations. All right, consider and take action to name the principal of Grove Elementary.
There she goes. It is my honor and recommendation to recommend Miss Randy Albertine as the new principal for Grove Elementary. Randy has a bachelor's in elementary education, 2 masters, 1 in literacy, 1 in school administration. She joined Union in 2010 and has been assistant principals at Rosa, Grove, Jefferson, Clark, and Briar Glen, I believe, for, okay. And it is my honor and recommendation to recommend Miss Randy Albertine as the new principal at Grove.
Move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Overman? Yes. Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Kinnear?
Yes.
The chair votes yes as well. Congratulations. All right, consider and take action to name the principal of Jefferson Elementary.
Teresa? Oh, she's behind the post. I couldn't see her. It is my honor to recommend Miss Teresa Besses as the new principal for Jefferson Elementary. Teresa has a bachelor's degree in business administration from TU, as well as a master's in counseling from OSU and her administrative certificate from NSU. She joined Union in 2011, worked as a counselor at Clark, became an assistant principal at Ochoa in 2019, and it is my honor to recommend Miss Teresa Besses as the new principal at Jefferson.
Second. Mr.
Kinnear?
Yes.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Overman? Yes. And the chair votes yes as well. Congratulations. Okay. Consider and take action on insurance renewals for general liability, auto, and other specified coverages for the policy year beginning July 1, 2023 from general and building funds, and authorize the Executive Director of Human Resources to sign any associated contracts and initiate payments under the contracts.
Thank you, President McAdams. We also have Sean Shadid here from Bank First. I want to thank them for their incredible work that they've done with us and partnering through every little minor or major disaster with Josh that we've done. They've been there assisting and ready to help anytime they can. In the subcommittee, we hadn't yet had our property rates. We still technically don't have our property rate, but we do have a maximum amount. The good news is our rates are lower than any other district in the state Unfortunately, that does mean that's still an increase. Yes, I know we can be excited, but unfortunately, it's still expensive. So our property rates are projected to go up 21% on the rate as well as 10% due to all the wonderful facilities we have added these past years. That's the maximum amount. It could come in lower. We're hoping this week to get that in a little bit lower, but it is a fairly hefty increase. As Sean and his team have pointed out, here in the nation for the last 8 years, there's been at least 10 major disaster declarations each year. Of over $1 billion. And the property markets, we've all seen it on our homeowners insurance and everything else as well going up. The good news is our rates are lower than anybody else. The property insurers recognize the quality which we build our buildings and take care of them, and that does weigh into this as well. On some good news on this, we did get some reductions in a few areas. Our workers' comp did go down by almost 50,000, as well as the great work our IT team has done with our cyber insurance. The number of things they've been able to put in place, that's been recognized, and that's dropped down by another 50,000 as well. So the overall increase for all of the insurances comes out around 21%, which while it's not ideal, it is still much better than some of our counterparts. And per property, just on the property, we have the lowest rate in the area for any major, including Oklahoma City, per dollar's value of our property coverage. So costing us a little less than everybody else, which is wonderful. We just hope we don't have to use it in any great extent. So, and I'd be happy, and Sean is here if you guys have any questions that we can answer for you.
I have a question about, I know that we often partner with other schools. This partnership seems kind of random. Is that put together by them or us, or?
This was put together through the insurance group that's doing that. The partnership tries to look at reasonable sized schools, and also they're not too close together, so that one disaster wouldn't particularly take out a number of schools. If we were with Jenks or Broken Arrow and we had a bad storm, we could potentially have lots of damage between all of us. This does spread that out a little bit. And it is something they do nationwide, where they have different silos of groups that they kind of insure together.
Makes sense.
I want to express my thanks, Sean, to you and Aaron and Bank First, the job that you all are doing for us. It's a tough market, and I appreciate you have thought out of the box to get us to where we are now. I think my encouragement is still we've got to we've got to think out of another box too. Am I correct? Did I see that we approached 5 or 6 insurers and we received 1 back?
That's correct.
Right. So that says, we don't have to answer that question now. But the question becomes, what happens when the one says, no, we're not going to do that? And, that's kind of the level that we are at on this. And if I had a solution or a recommendation, I would make it right now. I don't. I appreciate your expertise for getting us to where we are. The challenge is there. Unfortunately, the model that we are in at the pace of increase just isn't sustainable. And we know that, we recognize that. How we solve that, I don't know. But all that said, thank you very much for the work you've done to get us to here. It's probably important to quantify what a 21% overall increase is. And I did quick math, but.
Yeah, but we've got it in here. The 21% increase is an additional $662,968 for all of our property and all of our insurance coverages across the district.
Yeah.
Yes, our feeling's the same.
I like the 21% better.
I know. I know you do.
Still all the same.
Yeah.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right. Mr. Omerman? Yes. Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Kinnear?
Yes.
The chair votes yes as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Under school operations, consider and take action on the award of food, juices, dairy produce, snacks, beverages, chemicals, and paper bids for the 2023-2024 school year and associated blank purchase orders for same. Ms. Griffin?
Good evening. Dr. Hartzler, President McAdams, members of the board. Going to ask you to vote and consider to approve the award of food bids and all these other foods that kids need, juices, breads, produce, snacks and beverages, chemicals, and paper bids. And there are some renewals of some of the bids that are included in this as far as being approved, as well as the associated POs. There was a change with our bread delivery this year. We were not going to be able to get bread if we didn't accept it, and that was to deliver the bread to our warehouse. So that means it's going to impact our warehouse and our crew out there and having to deliver it to our schools. So that's another process we'll have to look at. It's just the nature of the business. Schools are not getting things that they need and have to adjust to that. So with that being said, if I would like to ask you to consider and approve the bid awards as well as the POs for all these different companies that I've listed.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Mr. Kinnear?
Yes.
Ms. Romerman? Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Chair votes
Thank you.
yes as well. Thank you. Consider and take action on the contract for outsourced help desk and on-site consulting help from 22nd Century Technologies in the total amount of $129,600 from federal ESSER funds. Mr. Morris?
President McAdams, Dr. Hartzler, members of the board, this is a outsource we do to help us start the school year. Todd had this started last year. I think it was the first time we did this. We use ESSER funds for it. With one-to-one, we pull a lot of techs in to get those in the hands of 6th through 12th graders, but they're still needed at the elementary on those first days of school too. So this allows us to fill those gaps and get through those first roughly 10 weeks of school.
Move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Ms. Romerman?
Yes.
Mr. Kinnear?
Yes.
Chair votes yes as well.
Thank you.
Consider and take action on the extension of contracted services agreement with American Waste Control Incorporated for waste control and recycling services in the amount of $148,000 from general funds. Mr. Bushyhead.
Yes, President McAdams, Dr. Hartzler, Board. This is a renewal. This amount is the same as what we asked for last year. As I've stated in the past, American Waste has been very good about crediting us when we don't have services. So we actually anticipate, hopefully it'll be a little bit less this year because we do have fewer summer school sites open. But asking that you approve this renewal to this contract with American Waste.
Move for approval.
Second.
Ms. Romerman?
Yes.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Kinnear?
Yes.
Chair votes yes as well.
Thank you.
Under Finance, consider and take action on the annual blanket purchase order encumbrances that exceed $100,000 from general and building funds, and authorize the encumbrance clerk to adjust all utility and freight expenses as necessary, and adjust any non-blanket purchase orders by up to 15% to cover overages and price variance when paying claims without prior approval of the board for the 2023-2024 fiscal year. Mr. Young.
President McAdams, Dr. Hartzler, members of the board, this is an annual requirement that we do to make sure that we can continue services as we start the new fiscal year and carry over into that fiscal year and pay the bills as they come due. So I would ask for your approval of this agenda item tonight.
Move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Ms. Romerman?
Yes.
Mr. Kinnear?
Yes.
The chair votes yes as well.
Thank you.
Consider and take action on a contract with RSM US LLP to perform an external financial audit of the 2022-2023 fiscal year at a fee not to exceed $93,700 for professional fees for audit services and an additional $7,500 per federal program from general funds. Dr. Williams.
Good evening, President McAdams, members of the board, Dr. Hartzler. This is a recommendation to enter into contract with RSM for the 22-23 fiscal year audit. This consists of an audit of the financial statements and the annual comprehensive financial report, as well as what we call the single audit, which is the financial and compliance examination of the federal programs. I would mention that Mr. Mike Gibson, who has been our audit partner for many, many years now, is retiring, and he will be handing off our engagement to Tino Robledo. Tino has worked on our audit for the last couple of years, done a very good job and very familiar with the district. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Kinnear?
Yes.
Ms. Romerman? Yes. The chair votes yes as well. Consider and take action on the purchase of the Kronos Workforce Ready Software Support Agreement renewal in the amount of $129,205.44 from bond funds.
Thank you. This is a request to enter into a software support agreement, which is a renewal for our Kronos system. Kronos provides our timekeeping as well as accruals, vacations, sick time, and so forth. It is probably the world leader in these types of systems and has been in place. The district has used Kronos for many, many years. This is a 2-year extension with a cost of $129,205.44.
Move for approval.
Second.
Ms. Romerman?
Yes.
Mr. Kinnear?
Yes.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes as well. Consider and take action on the 2022-2023 General Building and Child Nutrition Budget revisions. Dr. Williams?
Thank you. This item is a request to consider and take action on an amendment to the 22-23 current year General Building and Child Nutrition Fund budgets. If you'll refer to this page that's in your packet, the 22-23 proposed amendment is in the left-hand yellow column that's highlighted. I'll mention a couple of the things, but what we normally do this time of year is adjust our budget based on what we're seeing actually, both in terms of revenues and expenditures, allows us to get as close as we can, and also allows for any unexpected funds that come in at the year end for us to have sufficient appropriations to expend those. Within the general fund, just a couple of things I might point out, a couple of areas where we're making some shifts. In the general fund revenue, we have an increase under local sources other. That is a $2.2 million DHS grant. We had initially had that classified as a federal grant, so we moved it from federal to local based on instructions from our auditors and from DHS. So that is an EDP grant that has been very helpful in offsetting some of our costs this year, in addition to helping provide some seed money for the employee daycare. Couple of changes that you see there in red have to do with the intermediate sources of revenue as well as state sources. The intermediate sources is a decline in the mortgage tax. The district collects, as you know, when you close on a mortgage for a house, a percentage of that goes to the county and is then forwarded into the schools. What we have seen is interest rates have come back up, fewer housing sales, and we've seen a decline there, just as we have with motor vehicle taxes. So both of those items tend to operate in inverse with interest rates. So when interest rates go back up, people are not buying as many houses nor buying as many cars because they're hesitant to take out a loan at a higher interest rate. Of course, the flip side is we have more interest earnings on our investments. So we're glad to see those as well. And finally, under federal sources in the general fund, that reduction is a reflection of that DHS grant. Again, subtracted it from federal, added it back up to local. On the expenditure side in the general fund, we're simply making adjustments based on what we are seeing with our current pattern of expenditures and where we expect to wind up the year. So, as you all know, a budget is at any point early in the year is our best guess, best information with what we know about what is going on. So likewise, the building fund and the child nutrition fund are recommended for an amendment. The building fund is a net increase of about $100,000, as well as the expenditures, we increased about $100,000. That's an extra collection of revenue in our ad valorem areas. And we had a little bit of an offset reduction in a refund line item there. In child nutrition, on the third page, we saw a net increase in our total revenues that we're projecting for 22-23. However, I'd like to point out that our student lunch collections have gone down somewhat because we are receiving so much in federal aid. So you'll see a pretty significant increase in federal revenue in Child Nutrition Fund, about $1.8 million there. That's the result of additional reimbursements from the federal government, as well as our fresh fruit and vegetable grants that Lisa has been so good to apply for very aggressively. So those have brought that additional revenue into the Child Nutrition Fund. And I'd be glad to answer any questions.
None for me. Just continue to appreciate the attention to detail that you and your team provide to this.
Thank you.
Move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Kinnear?
Yes.
Ms. Romerman?
Yes.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Chair votes yes as well.
Thank you.
And now for next year, consider
For
and take
next year.
action on the 2023-2024 temporary operating budgets for the general building and child nutrition funds. Dr. Williams.
Along those same lines, we bring the temporary appropriations budget for 23-24 to you this evening. We basically base our 23-24 on what we know about 22-23 plus any new information we have going into next year. In the case of this year, we had quite a bit of significant information that we needed to incorporate into the new year budget right away, and I'll hit on some of those. The most significant has to do with the additional appropriation that the legislature approved, $500 million to go through the state aid formula. Those funds are to provide for the teacher pay increase, which we'll talk about in negotiations, graduated based on step levels of experience, as well as some other operational funds. So we expect to receive, you'll see on the far right-hand column, about $11 million from that appropriation. And the other thing I might point out is the legislature also approved a couple of mechanical changes to the state aid formula that will benefit us as well, and that are included in that $11 million increase. One is what we call the transportation factor in the formula, which generates a part of our state aid. It has absolutely nothing to do with how much we spend on transportation, but that weight was increased from the factor was increased from 1.39 to 2. That generated about $190,000 for us. So it certainly helps us. And the other thing which really affected us heading into next year is there's an increase in the weight for economically disadvantaged students. That weight was 0.25, it's increased to 0.30. So as you all know, we have a significant number of students that fall into that category. That increase in the weight will add, we expect about 527 weighted ADM, and that will generate just over $2,030,000. So,
and all of that's a part of the 11 million?
Part of the 11 million, yes, sir. Likewise, on the building fund, we had another big change heading into 23-24. You'll see $1 million on the far right-hand column under state sources. That is the result of what is called the state's Red Bud Fund. The legislature approved an additional $125 million for that fund. It's been in place for 2 years, and it's designed to assist districts that have low property valuation in relation to the number of students they serve. Well, in the last 2 years, Union has never fallen into that category and has not been eligible, but by increasing the size of the pot, we are heading into this coming year. So we'll receive about $1 million. That money goes into the building fund. It is restricted. It cannot be used for salaries, but it can be used for repairs, maintenance, equipment, those types of costs that we can carry in the building fund. So that's the big change in the building fund heading into next year. Likewise, in child nutrition is always a little unusual because we set our budget really high on the expenditure side so that we can encumber the foods and the commodities and the things that we need for students. When we get down to the end of the year, oftentimes we are closing some of those purchase orders because it turns out we didn't need them in some cases. But it's always hard to predict when we're looking at student enrollment and summer school and what those patterns are going to look like. So we try to build a larger budget than we anticipate needing so we have enough room, if you will, to accommodate that. Heading into next year, a couple of things that we'll notice is the funding, the federal funding that we have been receiving, the additional funding for student meals, that will begin to go away, unfortunately. Under ESSER, some of those funds will begin to expire. We'll see that both in the general fund heading into next year and child nutrition as well. So we're going to need to keep a close eye on that. We've also set aside about $1 million in child nutrition funds to help with the renovation at the 6th and 7th grade center that Mr. Bushyhead will be working on with bond funds that will also be in part funded by some child nutrition funds as well. So we set aside money in anticipation of that need. So I'd be glad to answer any questions for y'all.
Yeah, again, well done. The 11 million, if you had to handicap this, best estimate, conservative estimate?
Best estimate.
Okay.
Best estimate.
All right. Move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Kinnear?
Yes.
Ms. Romerman? Yes. And chair votes yes as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Consider and take action on the payment of a one-time 2022-2023 retention stipend for work performed during 2022-2023 if funding allows on June 30th, 2023, to be paid on specified dates in July 2023 to eligible employees as per the allocation plans, terms, and conditions discussed with the UCTA for certified teachers, the USPA for eligible support employees, and as recommended by the superintendent for administrative associate exempt curriculum coordinator personnel classes with funding from the 2022-2023 general building and/or child nutrition funds as deemed appropriate by the chief financial officer based on available resources as of June 30th, 2023. Dr. Williams.
Thank you. This is our recommendation that we typically bring at this time of year. It's one thing that we do that's really special to us and very unique. We have negotiated this item with both of our unions, even though we technically are not required to. We use it as an opportunity to sit and talk about what this means for the district, what this means for our teachers, what it means for our support employees. And it's also always a very positive conversation. We've laid out the kind of the rules and the regulations as we have evolved over the years and have a pretty good system down for how this works. We, in the old days, used to hand out paper checks in this room right here with a whole bunch of people lined up all the way down the hall. COVID unfortunately put an end to that, but what we found is that when we started paying by direct deposit, people really appreciated it. And to be fair to the payroll folks, it works much better for them. They don't have to deal with checks going through the laundry and things of that nature. So direct deposit date is planned upon approval tonight to be July 13th. So that is our 5% retention stipend with terms that we typically have in place. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
I'm just going to sort of echo what Ken said a minute ago. Thank you for the management that you do of our finances that allows us to even have this as an option to vote on. Because I think I speak for the whole board when I say that we really, really appreciate our teachers and our staff, and it's one of the greatest things we get to give back to you guys. So I appreciate the hard work that your team does, and I know all the site principals, everybody does going into making sure that
everyone.
we're being very conservative with our spending so that we have this to give back. So I just appreciate everybody for that.
Move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Kinnear.
Yes.
Mrs. Romerman.
Yes.
Mr. Reyes.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, too. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Consider and take action on the 2023. Consider and take action on the 2023-2024 salary schedules, negotiated compensation packages, and language changes for certified personnel in the UCTA and administrative salary schedule for administrative associates as per the superintendent's recommendation. Dr. Williams.
Thank you, Mrs. As Ms. Gunter mentioned earlier this evening, we did meet with the teachers union earlier this month on June 1st and spent what I felt like was a very productive day, talking through various issues that they wanted to discuss, that we wanted to discuss. We were able to make some very solid progress on our teacher pay scale, which I'm very pleased that we're in a position to be able to do that. The graduated salary increases that the state provided, ranging from $3,000 to $6,000, a step increase, and we're able to increase our TRS contribution from 3% to 4%. So really, really pleased to be able to do that, to increase our teachers' contracts, and to have a really good, thoughtful, positive conversation as part of it. My thanks to the administrative team, did a great job, as well as the teachers. Really, really appreciate the work you all did.
Move for approval.
Second.
Ms. Romerman.
Yes.
Mr. Reyes.
Yes.
Mr. Kinnear.
Yes.
The chair votes yes as well.
Thank you.
All right. Anything under new business? Comments from board members? I know we wanted to recognize several of our administrators who are here tonight who are retiring, and we want to recognize you. Rita Long is here from Ochoa.
You gotta stand.
Stand up. Kim Burns from Grove. Where's Kim? There she is. Lisa Griffin from Child Nutrition. And then, haven't seen tonight, so I'm sorry if I missed you, but Bob Buck, Steve Dunlap, and Becky Byers. So, we're grateful for everybody's service and sad to see you go. Grateful for the people stepping up behind them and all the work that you've done to make sure that those coming behind you are prepared and ready. And so, thank you. Yep. Go ahead.
Just wanted to, I know he's not here this evening, Todd Borland and Technology, Gart Morris, and I know their staff put on an incredible technology conference last week. I mean this, I don't know that there's another one like it in the state of Oklahoma. Certainly, that's free to anybody who comes to the event. So thank you to Todd, who's the one who really kind of started this several years ago. It was a remarkable event. You have to be careful because you step in there, and I think I spent a lot of money in just a few minutes that I was there, thinking it was all for good stuff, Gart. It was. It's just amazing what's out there, but truly, their group brought all these vendors together, and I don't know what the total number was, but the day that I was there, it was packed in the UMAC.
A few hundred vendors, and I'd say we had close to 200 attendees throughout the 2 days.
Yeah.
At least 200 that registered.
Yeah.
So
Well,
the numbers could be bigger, but that's the most vendors we've had show up.
great.
To be a part of this.
Well done. It was definitely put on the Union way, and I actually had several colleagues of mine stop me while I was there, and as I was exiting, saying, this is magnificent, and thank you all for hosting this. They had the opportunity to stay local and not travel, to see all the great things out there, not only software for teaching and learning, but also for security things, and so great job. Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Then I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Kinnear?
Yes.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Ms. Romerman? Yes. And the chair votes yes as well. We are adjourned.